So hey friends, welcome to this week's video. This week we're going back into luggage because we are headed to Japan. So 𝐵𝐵 has helped us with getting some things to try out. And this one is going to be the 20-inch carry-on of the Polaris. This one particularly is in the Misty Rose colorway, which is sort of like a white pinkish colorway, but they also come in camo green, black, and light blue. So there's a bunch of colorways from here. But what's really nice about this is dumb light, like one of their lightest luggages. Plus it has a lot of good features here, like the wide handle. And you know me, if you've been watching these 𝐵𝐵 reviews, I love a wide handle just from the stability and packability perspective, which is awesome for something that's small and carry-on like this. So before we get too deep in just casual conversation, let's go into the specs and look into how this would be packed.
The Polaris stands in at 21.6 inches tall with the handle, 14 inches wide, and 9 inches deep. This constitutes a 38-liter case, which is perfect for a weekend getaway or short business trip. And of course, the case sits on a set of wonderful 𝐵𝐵 wheels which roll smooth as butter. For real though, these are generally my favorite features out of 𝐵𝐵 across their whole line. The case is made of a matte textured Baker McCollum polycarbonate material that is scratch resistant and relatively easy to clean. On the spine of the case, there are nubs to allow you to put it on its side without risking scuffing, something that is more important with these lighter colorways. On the top side and opening side of the case, the Polaris utilizes stretchy handles that have a smooth texture. These are relatively comfortable in hand, especially with this lightweight for this case. They go back to shape and keep the sleek silhouette of the case. The whole thing is secured with a standard TSA zipper tab lock, and the closure is dual zippered. The handle is wide and curved to fit the nice lines of the Polaris. It fits flush and is multi-height adjustable. It also makes a good elbow rest when you're just waiting around. The wide handle design is my favorite due to the fact that it's more stable and comfortable in hand. Do keep in mind that the wide style will not fit standard luggage trolley straps on backpacks, duffels, and totes. If you need something that will secure the bag to the handles, I'd suggest something like the Cincha wide handle travel belts. They're a convenient alternative and easy to pack. The wide handle also has the benefit of not having those awkward bars in the middle, which sometimes cause issues when packing harder items or shoes. Here, the middle section is clear, and I find it makes it easier to pack and rearrange things than traditional narrow handles on carry-ons. So now we've seen the inside of the case, let's look at what 𝐵𝐵 packed in this thing. The dividers are a mesh material and stretchy to allow you a little wiggle room to overpack and lock things in. One side is just a plain divider, while the other one has zippered pockets. These are great for socks, underwear, accessories, and smaller, flatter items. In the main compartment, she stored 4 days of clothes that she'd need in her first Tokyo leg of our Japan trip. The 𝐵𝐵 packing cubes did wonders here, and they fit perfectly on one side of the case. Review above if you want to see their offering there. On the other side, she was able to hold another 4 days of clothes for our next legs in Kanazawa and Kyoto. That was basically all the clothes that she brought on this trip because she was intending to shop. And I know you're wondering, well, Volt, where are her shoes and toiletries? Well, since we knew we were going to shop and we didn't want to buy a suitcase while there, we shoved the Polaris inside of the Luminous 28 check-in. The Luminous is a big boy and she simply loves it. It's her go-to for most trips. And again, if there's a review above if you're interested. But the Polaris fits in here so nicely with space on the same side to shove her toiletries, makeup kit, spray bottle, and portable steamer. Her shoes and an extra rain jacket were stored loosely on the other side, and we used this zippered pockets here on the Luminous for her underwear and other items. The Luminous's retention straps were clutch here because they locked in the Polaris very nicely to ensure that it did not sway around in transit. And then while scrolling back, I realized I didn't have a ton of film of the Polaris in Japan in action because a majority of the time it was stored inside of the Luminous since we didn't want to separate them out. This helped us stay sleek in transit when taking bullet trains and other transit around the city. However, towards the end of the trip when we had hit the markets and shops more, we finally let it free. The wheels held up very well on variable terrain of Japan's streets, from gravel to tiles to cobble to speed bump partitions. The wheels held up great and stayed smooth despite getting rocked. The small size case made it ideal for overhead storage and bullet trains and really easy to navigate on local transit. While other carry-ons were hanging on the edge, the Polaris fit snug behind the barriers, keeping it secure in high speeds. Also, surprisingly, the exteriors remained pristine looking. Super scuff-free, no noticeable scratches, and all that after being tossed into shuttle buses, taxis, bumped into crowds during rush hour, all of that. I was really impressed on how pretty it stayed despite all of that. Samika had no problems darting in and out of crowds to read signs and ask for information, and since I was manning the big luggages, she was able to be more agile and move with this bag without being an annoying ass tourist like I was. While we have a lot of level 8 luggage and they all fit their niches, we haven't had one that's quite as small and quite as nimble as this one. It was really nice to have in Japan where the streets and rooms and cars are smaller. This was not only able to hold most of Samika's fits, but it's also allowed her to be more swift amongst the hustle and bustle of Japan.
Alright, so coming back from Japan, there are some things that I missed. And one of them was a roll sound. So we're going to do that right now. You can hear how the wheels sound when I roll them. Overall, really smooth. As I mentioned before, we put this across a ton of different terrain and it was able to hold up. The wheels, pretty intact. Even the logo stayed intact, which is surprising. So overall, really resilient on the wheels. You won't have any issues with them breaking or like wearing down, at least not in the near term. The thing that I will say is I did mention how it held up to scratches and all that really well. And it did. It literally did. Like, I was worried because one of my other luggages got damaged when it was underneath, what do you call it, a shuttle. This one was fine. There's no scuffs, even on the parts that are not 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄, like the plastic parts where I thought that would be a little bit more fragile. Still look fine. Not any sort of smudges or anything that would be of issue. The only time that this became an issue is when we were fully maxed out on all of our luggage and we had to put this into the plane. That's where all this stuff came from. So, you know, there's some blackness around the corners. There's some scratches from just probably transit. So you can see like some of that matte is kind of shiny now because it was scratched up. So we'll see if this is clean or we can clean it. But that's the only time that we've seen it in this state. Otherwise, it had been white the entire time, no matter what transit we threw it in. So let me see if I can clean this and then we'll come back. Okay. So 5 minutes of work on the front and it's basically all clean. So you can see by yourself, we got most of that stuff off, which is great. And it wasn't a ton of effort, really. I probably could have gotten all of it off on all sides if I just spent a little bit more time, but it was as simple as a magic eraser to get off some of the front facing stuff. Even the edges where there was a lot of darkening, magic eraser was perfect. The only issues that were like the edges. That's where I think they take the most damage and they get really smacked on. That's when you need a little steel brush, just a little bit of pressure, a little bit of soap, and it will take out that, like smudges and all that sort of stuff. So my recommendation here is, again, it's a carry-on. Carry this on, especially if you're going with this lighter colorways. However, if you find yourself needing to check it often, like maybe you're a business traveler and you're doing a lot of hoppers from like Boston to New York or New York to Philadelphia or something like that, you know, maybe go for a darker one just in case you need to check it in. But for most people, I think if you make this a carry-on, you can go with the lighter colorways. Again, they're super resilient. Everywhere else outside the plane, we didn't have any issues with scratches or smudges. So I think you'll be good that way. Again, this isn't for everyone. This is for more people that are looking for more tactical, more streamlined carry. This is not for someone who's an overpacker. This is not someone who, you know, you need expandability and all that sort of stuff. This is for someone who's just like in and out, 3 days of clothes. And I know, Samika put 8 days of clothes in here, but she didn't put toiletries, she didn't put shoes. So more tactically, you're probably gonna get like a nice 3 days in here very comfortably and be able to, you know, get through that weekend, get through that short business trip just fine. So if you like this, there'll be links on the bottom. We've done other suitcases during that trip, so I'm sure you guys saw a little bit of glimpses of a larger suitcase. That's the Adventure. We did the smaller one before, but in Japan we brought the smaller one with the bigger one thanks to Level 8. So that will probably be the next review so you guys can see just an absolutely gigantic luggage that was perfect for that trip. But yeah, there's so many things to talk about that one. Please stay tuned for that one. In terms of things coming up next, a lot of it's going to be travel focused just because, like, you know, we have shoes from Japan, we have just like all these like things that we acquired while there, as well as stuff that we were traveling with. So like a Fujifilm camera, like Steam Deck sort of stuff, like things that we found a lot of fun using while like transit. So I just want to talk about some of those things and some other travel stuff as well in terms of like fits and all these other clothes and all this other stuff. But obviously there's definitely going to be like a little bit of travel vloggy stuff to like recap my trip, and there'll probably be something else. It's going to be a longer project. It'll probably come out in November, but you know, just a little sample there. But yeah, plenty to talk about. Again, unless a sponsorship comes through with something else that will get away from that, it's likely going to be travel for the next month or so, just so I can catch up on content. But I hope that you guys have been enjoying all these bags and things that you've been seeing recently, and that it's really been helping you make some decisions. But if you could, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you normally do on a video that you like and love. And as always, I appreciate you. See you soon. We got more luggage to look at.